The rain was pouring down in sheets, casting a cold, oppressive veil over the dark, shadowy streets of Riverdale Estates. Ho Karen gripped the steering wheel of her car, knuckles turning white as she peered through the windshield, barely able to make out the imposing figure standing in the middle of the road. A soldier fully armed and blocking the entrance to her driveway. What the hell is going on? She muttered under her breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and outrage. Ho was the president of the Riverdale Homeowners Association, a position she had fought ruthlessly to attain and one she wielded with an iron fist. She answered to no one, least of all the local authorities. Gritting her teeth, Ho threw open the car door and stepped out, her high heels clicking against the wet pavement as she approached the soldier, umbrella in hand. "Explain yourself," she demanded, her voice cutting through the patter of the rain. "Why are you blocking the entrance to my home?" The soldier, his face obscured by the darkness, remained silent for a moment before speaking in a low, authoritative tone. "Ma'am, I'm under strict orders to secure this area. No one is to enter or leave the premises until further notice." Ho's eyes narrowed, a spark of defiance igniting within her. On whose authority? She snapped, her grip tightening on the handle of her umbrella. "The Riverdale Homeowners Association, ma'am," the soldier replied, his tone unwavering. Ho's blood ran cold. The Riverdale HOA, the very organization she presided over, had ordered this military blockade, bypassing her completely. A sinking feeling of dread settled in the pit of her stomach as she realized that someone or something had usurped her power. "This is an outrage," she shouted, her voice echoing through the deserted street. "I am the president of the Riverdale HOA, and I demand you remove this blockade immediately." The soldier shook his head, his grip tightening on his weapon. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but my orders are clear. No one is to enter or leave this area until further notice." Ho's mind raced, her strategic mind already formulating a plan of attack. She couldn't simply barge past the soldier. That would only land her in trouble. No, she needed to be smarter and more calculated in her approach. Narrowing her eyes, Ho took a step back, her expression shifting from one of outrage to one of calm, practiced control. "Very well," she said, her voice measured and controlled. "I'll be in touch with the HOA board to sort this out." The soldier nodded, his posture relaxing slightly. "I understand, ma'am, but I'm afraid I can't let you pass until I receive the all-clear." Ho turned on her heel, her mind whirring with possibilities. Someone had made a move against her, someone powerful enough to bypass her authority and deploy military forces to secure her own neighborhood. This was a war, and Ho Karen was determined to win. As she walked back to her car, the rain pounding against her umbrella, a glimmer of a smile tugged at the corners of her lips. She knew exactly where to start her counterattack. Ho Karen's heels clicked against the hardwood floor as she paced back and forth in her lavish living room, her eyes narrowed in deep concentration. The military blockade at the entrance to her neighborhood had thrown her for a loop, but she was never one to be caught off guard for long. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out her phone and quickly dialed a number. "Jared, it's Ho. I need you in my office now." Within minutes, Jared, Ho's trusted right-hand man and the HOA's legal counsel, burst through the door, his brow furrowed with concern. "What's happened, Ho?" "I just got your urgent message." Ho wasted no time in filling him in on the situation, her words rapid and precise. "The military has blockaded the entrance to Riverdale Estates on the orders of the HOA board. I need you to find out what's going on and who's behind this." Jared's eyes widened and he quickly began typing on his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. "This is highly irregular, Ho. The HOA board can't just override your authority like this. There must be something else going on." Ho nodded, her expression grim. "That's what I intend to find out. I want you to start digging into the board members, their finances, their personal lives, anything that could give us a clue as to who's making a power play." "Consider it done," Jared replied, already heading for the door. "I'll have my team on this immediately." As Jared hurried out, Ho turned her attention to the window, her gaze fixed on the dimly lit streets beyond. The rain had let up, but the air still felt thick with tension, as if the very atmosphere was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Ho's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. Who on the HOA board would have the audacity to challenge her authority? And more importantly, what were they hoping to achieve? Her thoughts were interrupted by the shrill ring of her phone. Glancing down, she recognized the number and felt a surge of relief. Well, if it isn't my old friend, Mayor Wilkins," she murmured, a hint of a smile playing on her lips as she answered the call. "Ho, what in the hell is going on over there?" the mayor's gruff voice demanded. "I'm getting reports of a military blockade at the entrance to Riverdale Estates. Care to explain?" Ho's expression hardened. "That's what I'd like to know, Mayor. It seems the HOA board has decided to take matters into their own hands, and they've deployed the military to secure the neighborhood." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, followed by a heavy sigh. "Damn it, Ho. I should have known this was your doing. My doing? Ho echoed, her voice laced with indignation. I'm as much in the dark as you are, Mayor. This is a direct challenge to my authority, and I intend to find out who's behind it and put a stop to it. Well, you better do it fast, Ho, the mayor warned. This is causing a lot of upheaval in the community, and I can't keep the lid on it for much longer. You need to get this situation under control, or there's going to be hell to pay. Ho's grip tightened on the phone, her knuckles turning white. Don't worry, Mayor. I have no intention of letting anyone usurp my power. This is my neighborhood, and I'll be damned if I let anyone take it from me. The mayor sighed again. Just be careful, Ho. You're playing a dangerous game here, and I can't guarantee I'll be able to protect you if things go south. I don't need your protection, Mayor, Ho snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. I can handle this myself. Without waiting for a response, she ended the call, her mind already whirring with new possibilities. Whoever was behind this power play, they were about to learn a hard lesson. No one crossed Ho'Karan and got away with it. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets of Riverdale Estates shrouded in an eerie silence. Ho'Karan, her jaw set with determination, strode through the darkness, her high heels clicking against the pavement. Her eyes scanned the area, searching for any signs of the military presence that had blocked the entrance to her neighborhood earlier that evening. As she approached the intersection, she spotted a lone figure standing under a flickering streetlight, the soldier still guarding the blockade. Ho paused, her mind weighing the possibilities. This was her chance to gather more information and gain a tactical advantage. Squaring her shoulders, Ho approached the soldier, her expression calm and composed. Good evening, officer, she said, her voice laced with a hint of false sweetness. I'm Ho'Karan, the president of the Riverdale Homeowners Association. I was hoping you could clarify the situation for me. The soldier turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Ma'am, I'm afraid I can't discuss the details of the operation. My orders are to maintain the blockade until further notice. Ho nodded, her gaze never wavering. I see. Well, I can assure you that I am the rightful authority here, and I demand to know who gave the order to deploy military forces in my neighborhood. The soldier hesitated, his grip tightening on his weapon. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't disclose that information. My orders come directly from the HOA board. Ho's eyes narrowed, a spark of anger flickering in their depths. The HOA board? That's impossible. As the president, I should have been informed of any such decision. The soldier shook his head. I'm afraid I don't have any more information to share, ma'am. My orders are clear, and I'm not at liberty to discuss the details. Ho took a step closer, her expression hardening. Let me make this perfectly clear, officer. I am the president of the Riverdale Homeowners Association, and I will not be denied access to my own neighborhood. If you refuse to cooperate, I can assure you that there will be consequences. The soldier's posture stiffened, his hand tightening on the grip of his weapon. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step back. I'm under strict orders to maintain this blockade, and I won't hesitate to use force if necessary. Ho's lips curled into a sardonic smile. Force, huh? We'll see about that. Turning on her heel, Ho strode back to her car, her mind racing the possibilities. She had encountered resistance, but that only fueled her determination. Whoever was behind this power play, they had clearly underestimated her. Reaching into her purse, Ho pulled out her phone and quickly typed out a message to Jared. Find out who's behind the military blockade and do it fast. I'm not going to let anyone take my neighborhood from me. As she hit send, a movement in the shadows caught her eye. Squinting, she could make out the faint outline of a figure slipping between the parked cars, heading towards the blockade. Ho's heart raced, her instincts kicking into high gear. Whoever that was, they were up to no good. Glancing around to ensure she wasn't being watched, Ho quickly followed, her footsteps silent and her senses on high alert. As she drew closer, she could make out the figure more clearly, a man tall and lanky with a hooded jacket pulled low over his face. Ho's eyes narrowed as she watched him approach the soldier, his movements stealthy and calculated. Suddenly, the figure raised his hand, and Ho's eyes widened as she saw the glint of metal in the dim light. Without hesitation, she surged forward, her high heels forgotten as she raced towards the scene, her heart pounding in her chest. Stop, she shouted, her voice cutting through the silence like a knife. The figure whirled around, and Ho's breath caught in her throat as she locked eyes with the most unexpected of foes. Ho'Karan's eyes widened as she recognized the figure standing before her, his hand still clutching the concealed weapon. Frank, what the hell are you doing? Frank, the HOA's finance director, stared back at her, his expression a mix of panic and defiance. Ho, I didn't expect you to be out here. Ho took a step forward, her gaze unwavering. Obviously. Now, care to explain why you're sneaking around the blockade in the middle of the night, armed and ready to do God knows what? Frank's eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. I was just trying to get home. You know how strict the HOA rules are, and with the military here, Cut the crap, Frank, Ho snapped, her patience wearing thin. You're not going anywhere until you tell me what's really going on. The soldier, who had been watching the exchange with growing unease, finally stepped forward. Ma'am, is everything all right? Ho turned to him, her expression hardening. Everything is just fine, officer. I caught one of my own board members trying to sneak past your blockade. I'd appreciate it if you detain him until I can sort this out. The soldier hesitated, his gaze flicking between Ho and Frank. I'm not sure I have the authority to do that, ma'am. My orders are to maintain the blockade, not to make arrests. Ho let out a frustrated sigh. Well, then I'm placing him under citizen's arrest. You can stand by and watch, or you can lend a hand. Either way, he's not going anywhere. The soldier nodded, his face set with determination. Understood, ma'am. I'll assist you in detaining the suspect. As the soldier moved to apprehend Frank, Ho couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. She had outmaneuvered her own board member, and in the process had gained a temporary ally in the form of the soldier. It was a small victory, but one that she intended to build upon. All right, Frank, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. Start talking. What exactly were you planning to do out here? Frank's eyes darted around, his expression a mix of fear and defiance. I was just trying to get home, Ho. You have to believe me. Ho scoffed, crossing her arms over her chest. Somehow, I don't believe you. You're a member of the HOA board, and yet you're trying to sneak past a military blockade in the middle of the night, armed and ready to do who knows what. That doesn't exactly scream innocent bystander to me. Frank's shoulders slumped, and he let out a heavy sigh. All right, fine. I was planning to sabotage the blockade, okay? I was going to try and disable the vehicles or create a diversion so I could get through. Ho's eyes narrowed, her mind racing with the implications of Frank's confession. So you're the one behind this whole mess? You and the rest of the HOA board tried to usurp my authority and deploy the military against me. Frank shook his head, his expression pained. No, Ho. It's not like that. The board, they're planning something big, something that could tear this community apart. I was just trying to stop it, to protect my home. Ho's brow furrowed with confusion. What are you talking about, Frank? What could possibly be so important that you'd be willing to betray the HOA like this? Frank's eyes darted nervously, and he licked his lips, a bead of sweat rolling down his forehead. I can't tell you, Ho. It's too dangerous. If the others find out I've said anything. Ho's expression hardened, and she took a step closer, her eyes narrowed. Oh, you're going to tell me, Frank, one way or another. The soldier, who had been silent throughout the exchange, cleared his throat. Ma'am, I think it's best if we take this gentleman into custody and let the authorities sort it out. Ho nodded, her gaze never leaving Frank's face. Agreed. Let's see what else he has to say. The interrogation room was a stark, sterile environment, the flickering fluorescent lights casting an eerie glow over Frank's pale, drawn features. Homeowner sat across from him, her gaze piercing and unrelenting. All right, Frank, she said, her voice low and measured. Let's try this again. What exactly is the HOA board planning that's so dangerous? Frank shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his hands trembling slightly. I can't tell you, Ho. They'll come after me and my family. I can't risk that. Ho leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. You're already in deep, Frank. The military is blockading my neighborhood, and I caught you trying to sabotage their efforts. If you don't start talking, you're going to be facing a lot more than just the wrath of the HOA board. Frank's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. I don't know all the details, okay? But I overheard them talking about some kind of massive development project, something that would displace hundreds of homeowners. Ho's brow furrowed. A development project? What kind of project? Frank shook his head, his eyes darting around the room. I don't know, Ho. All I know is that it's going to make a lot of people very, very rich. And the board is willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen, even if it means going against your authority. Ho leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. A massive development project that would displace hundreds of homeowners. It sounded like the kind of underhanded, power-hungry scheme that the HOA board would be capable of. And if they were willing to use the military to enforce their will, then they were clearly playing for keeps. And they deployed the military to secure the neighborhood. Ho asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Frank nodded, his expression grim. Yeah, they knew you'd never go for it, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. They're trying to keep the whole thing under wraps until they can finalize the deal. Ho let out a humorless chuckle. Well, they clearly underestimated me. No one undermines my authority and gets away with it. Frank's eyes widened and he leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Ho, you have to be careful. These people, they're not messing around. They've got connections, power. They could make your life a living hell if you cross them. Ho's expression hardened, her jaw set with determination. I don't scare easily, Frank. and I'm not about to let a bunch of power-hungry, corrupt bureaucrats take over my neighborhood. This is my turf, and I'll be damned if I let them steal it from me. Frank opened his mouth to protest, but Ho raised a hand, silencing him. Don't worry, Frank. I'm not going to let them come after you. In fact, I'm going to need your help if I'm going to take these bastards down. Frank's eyes widened and he shook his head vehemently. No way, Ho. I can't get involved any further. I've already said too much as it is. Ho leaned forward, her expression deadly serious. Frank, you're already in this up to your neck. If you don't help me, you're going to be the one left holding the bag. And trust me, you don't want to be on the wrong side of this fight. Frank hesitated, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Finally, he let out a resigned sigh. All right, Ho. What do you need me to do? Ho's lips curled into a triumphant smile. That's more like it. Now here's what I need you to do. As Ho laid out her plan, Frank's expression shifted from one of fear to one of cautious optimism. Perhaps with Ho's help, he could find a way to stop the HOA board's nefarious scheme and save his beloved neighborhood. The rain had started up again, the gentle patter of droplets against the windows providing a soothing backdrop to the tense atmosphere in Ho Karen's office. Ho sat behind her desk, her fingers drumming against the polished surface as she listened intently to the voice on the other end of the phone. You're sure about this, Jared? She asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Positive, Ho, Jared replied, his voice tinged with a mix of urgency and resignation. The HOA board has been funneling funds into a shell company for months, and the money trail leads straight to a series of shady real estate deals. Ho let out a heavy sigh, her expression darkening. I knew it. They're trying to pull off some kind of massive development project, one that would displace hundreds of homeowners. Exactly, Jared confirmed. And they've been using the military blockade to keep the whole thing under wraps until they can finalize the deal. Ho's grip tightened on the phone, her knuckles turning white. Well, they picked the wrong neighborhood to mess with. I'm not going to let them get away with this, Jared. Not on my watch. I know, Ho, Jared replied, his voice laced with a hint of trepidation. But you need to be careful. These people have deep pockets and powerful connections. If you make the wrong move, it could bury you. Ho let out a mirthless chuckle. I've never been one to back down from a fight, Jared, and I'm certainly not going to start now. Jared sighed heavily. All right, Ho. What's the plan? Ho leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. First, I need you to dig deeper into those real estate deals. I want to know every dirty detail, every shady connection. We need to build a case that's ironclad. Consider it done, Jared replied. What else? I need you to go through the HOA's financial records with a fine-tooth comb, Ho continued. Look for any other irregularities, any evidence of embezzlement or misappropriation of funds. We need to hit them where it hurts, in their wallets. Understood, Jared said. And what about the military blockade? Ho's expression hardened. That's where Frank comes in. He's agreed to help us disable the blockade from the inside. Once the way is clear, we can move in and confront the board directly. Jared let out a low whistle. Dan Ho, you're really going all out on this, aren't you? Ho's lips curled into a humorless smile. You better believe it, Jared. These bastards have messed with the wrong homeowner association president. All right then, Jared said, his voice resolute. I'll get my team on it right away. Just be careful out there, Ho. These people play for keeps. I'll keep that in mind, Ho replied, her voice dripping with determination. But I'm not about to let them walk all over me. This is my neighborhood, and I'll be damned if I let them take it from me. As Ho ended the call, she couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. This was a high-stakes game, and she was determined to come out on top. The HOA board had made a grave mistake in underestimating her, and she was more than ready to show them just how formidable she could be. Glancing out the window, Ho watched as the rain continued to pelt the streets, casting a gloomy, ominous pall over the entire neighborhood. But she knew that the true storm was brewing within the walls of the Riverdale estates, and she was more than ready to weather it. With a deep breath, Ho rose from her chair and headed towards the door, her mind already wearing with the next phase of her plan. The battle lines had been drawn, and Ho Karen was determined to emerge victorious. The night air was thick with tension as Ho Karen approached the military blockade, her expression a mask of calm determination. She could see the soldier standing guard, his weapon at the ready, and her heart raced with a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. Beside her, Frank shifted nervously, his eyes darting around the dimly lit street. Are you sure this is going to work, Ho? He whispered, his voice trembling. Ho turned to him, her gaze unwavering. It has to work, Frank. We're running out of time, and we can't let the HOA board get away with this. Frank nodded, his lips pressed into a thin line. All right, then. Let's do this. As they drew closer to the blockade, the soldier straightened, his grip tightening on his weapon. Hold it right there, he barked, his voice echoing through the empty street. This area is off limits. Ho stepped forward, her expression calm and composed. I understand, officer, but I'm the president of the Riverdale Homeowners Association, and I need to speak with the board immediately. The soldier's brow furrowed, a hint of uncertainty flickering in his eyes. I'm sorry, ma'am, but my orders are to maintain the blockade until further notice. I can't let you pass. Ho nodded, her gaze never wavering. I see. Well, in that case, I'd like to file a formal complaint with the HOA board. I'm sure they'll be very interested to hear about the unauthorized military presence in my neighborhood. The soldier hesitated, his grip on his weapon wavering. Ma'am, I don't think you understand the seriousness of this situation. The HOA board has. I understand perfectly well, officer. Ho interrupted, her voice sharp and unyielding. And I can assure you that I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Now please step aside and let me through. The soldier's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing with uncertainty. Ho could see the internal conflict playing out on his face, and she knew that she had to act quickly before he regained his resolve. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the street, followed by the sound of screeching tires. The soldier whirled around, his weapon raised, and Ho seized her opportunity. Now, Frank, she shouted, surging forward. Frank, who had been waiting for the signal, quickly moved to disable the military vehicles, his movements swift and decisive. Within moments, the blockade was in disarray, with the soldier scrambling to regain control of the situation. Ho pushed past the chaos, her eyes fixed on the distant lights of the HOA building. She knew that time was of the essence, and she couldn't afford to waste a single moment. As she reached the entrance, she was met by a group of armed security guards, their expressions grim and their weapons drawn. Stop right there, Ho, one of the guards barked, his finger hovering over the trigger. You're not going any further. Ho raised her hands, her expression calm and unruffled. Gentlemen, I'm the president of the Riverdale Homeowners Association, and I demand to speak with the board immediately. The guards exchanged uncertain glances, their grip on their weapons wavering. Ho could see the indecision written on their faces, and she knew that she had to capitalize on it. If you don't let me through, I can assure you that there will be consequences, she said, her voice low and menacing. Now stand aside and let me do my job. The guards hesitated, their eyes darting between Ho and the chaos unfolding behind her. Finally, one of them stepped aside, his expression reluctant. This way, ma'am, he muttered, his voice laced with resignation. Ho brushed past him, her lips curled into a triumphant smile. She was one step closer to confronting the HOA board, and she was determined to make them pay for their betrayal. As she strode down the dimly lit hallway, her footsteps echoing against the marble floors, Ho could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on her. But she refused to be cowed, her resolve only growing stronger with each step. This was her neighborhood, her domain, and she would be damned if she let anyone take it from her. The HOA boardroom was a study in contrasts, grand, opulent furnishings that exuded power and authority juxtaposed against the palpable tension that hung in the air like a thick fog. Homeowner strode into the room, her head held high, her gaze sweeping over the assembled board members with a mixture of disdain and determination. Well, well, look who decided to grace us with her presence, sneered one of the board members, a portly man with a greedy glint in his eyes. Ho fixed him with a cold, calculating stare. Spare me the pleasantries, Jeffers. I think we both know why I'm here. Another board member, a woman with perfectly coiffed hair and a predatory smile, leaned forward in her chair. Oh, I think we do, Ho. You've been causing quite a stir, haven't you? Ho's lips curled into a sardonic smile. Causing a stir? I'd say I've been exposing your little scheme for the corrupt, underhanded power grab that it is. The board members exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions ranging from irritation to outright panic. Ho knew she had them on the ropes, and she was determined to capitalize on their discomfort. You know, I've been doing some digging, she continued, her voice dripping with a false sense of innocence. Turns out you've been funneling funds into a shell company, all in the name of some development project that's going to line your pockets at the expense of the homeowners. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. That's absurd, Jeffers blustered, his face turning a deep shade of red. We're simply trying to improve the community, to bring in new investment and revitalize the neighborhood. Ho let out a humorless chuckle. Oh, I'm sure that's what you're telling yourselves. But I got the evidence to prove that this is nothing more than a blatant land grab, one that you were willing to use the military to enforce. The woman with the perfectly coiffed hair cleared her throat, her expression hardening. Ho, I think you're overreacting. The military presence was a necessary precaution given the sensitive nature of the project. We couldn't risk any interference. Ho's eyes narrowed, her gaze boring into the woman's soul. Interference, huh? Is that what you call it when the homeowners get in the way of your little power play? The board members exchanged uneasy glances, the tension in the room palpable. Look, Ho, Jeffers said, his voice trembling slightly. We're not trying to hurt anyone. This project is going to bring in a lot of money, a lot of investment. It's for the good of the community." Ho scoffed, her expression dripping with disdain. "The good of the community? Don't make me laugh. This is about lining your own pockets, plain and simple. And you were willing to trample over the rights of the homeowners to do it." The board members shifted uncomfortably, their expressions a mix of guilt and defiance. "Ho, you have to understand," a woman with the perfectly coiffed hair said, her voice low and measured. "This is bigger than any one of us. The financial benefits to the community are immense, and the board has decided that this is the best course of action." Ho's expression hardened, her eyes narrowing to slits. "The best course of action? I think you're forgetting one crucial detail. This is my neighborhood, and I'm not about to let you run roughshod over it." The board members exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions a mix of fear and resignation. Ho's lips curled into a predatory smile. "You should have known better than to mess with Ho Karen, because now you're going to pay the price." With that, she turned on her heel and strode out of the boardroom, her footsteps echoing against the marble floors. The battle lines had been drawn, and Ho was determined to emerge victorious. As she stepped out into the cool night air, she couldn't help but feel a surge of triumph. The Asia Oil Board had made a grave mistake in underestimating her, and now they were going to face the consequences. Ho Karen was back, and she was ready to take her neighborhood back, no matter what it took.